Okay, guys, hi. I'm finally doing the blood results. So I'm going to go through the bloods, what they mean first really quickly. So I will do it no, actually I'll do it together. I'll do it together. So let's go. So WBC, these are my own blood results from the 26th of the 27th of the 11th, 2024. So they were just after my fasting November. So I expected them to be really good. There was a couple of surprises. So I'll come to those in a minute. So my WBC was my white blood cell count. This is also called the leukocytes. It's part of your immune system. They are a type of blood cell made in your bone marrow and found in your blood and lymph system and tissue as part of the immune system support. Now, guys, please get your blood results done in 2025. The WBC alone will tell you a lot. So if your WBC is elevated, you probably have something wrong. Something. It could be a tiny little virus that you have that week. It could be something else. Now, my WBC was not too elevated because even though I had had the flu vaccination 2 days earlier. So my WBC was at 6 and it should be between 4.4 and 11.3. Now that indicates to me that my immune system was very, very, very good and that it was responding excellently to the flu vaccination, which I only had 2 days earlier, the winter flu vaccination. So the next one is the RBC, that's your red blood cell count. And it tells you how many red blood cells you have. Red blood cells contain a substance called hemoglobin, which transports oxygen around the body. So this is an important thing. So my RBC was 4.25, and it should be between 3.9 to 5.3. So it was perfectly good. My HB is the hemoglobin test. HB, the hemoglobin test measures the iron-rich protein called the hemoglobin in the red blood cells. This carries the oxygen from your lungs to the rest of your body. Your cells need oxygen to grow, reproduce, and make energy for you to function. So that should be within the range so that you know that you're a healthy person. Your HCT, this is your hematocrit test. Hematocrit measures the proportion of red blood cells in the blood. So this is an important test because the red blood cells carry oxygen throughout the body. So having too few or too many can be a sign of certain diseases, perhaps like cancer. So if it's low, you may have fatigue, weakness, vision problems, and dizziness. Or too high, you may have a greater risk of cardiovascular event, or you may be dehydrated. So mine was a 0.412 L per L, and it should be between 0.35 and 0.46. So mine was exactly in the middle, which is a good sign. Now I had an unusual result in my MCV. Your MCV is your mean corpuscle volume, is the average size of your red blood cells, which helps us understand how well the red blood cells carry around oxygen around your body. You need average size red blood corpuscles to carry around oxygen, and you don't want them too low or too high. Now mine were slightly high, but my MCV was 96 per 0.9 FL, and it should be between 80 and 96. Now, a lot of labs use between 80 and 100. So mine was only 96.9. So it was like very slightly elevated. That could have been because of the flu vaccination. I don't know, because it's right in the middle of all these other results that are perfectly fine. So when you look for one marker, you really need to look for other markers. It might also have been elevated because later on there's another result in here where I was taking too much of a supplement that isn't dangerous. But anyway, we'll look at that. But the only one I didn't do there was the HB. This is the hemoglobin. I was 13.6 G per DL, and it's supposed to be between 11.7 and 15.9. So you'll see all those results are bang on in the middle. Really, really nice. So you should be looking out for those results being kind of weird if there's anything wrong, and that'll tell you something. So MCH is the next one. That's your mean corpuscle hemoglobin, and is the calculation of the average amount of hemoglobin contained in each of the person's red blood cells. We need good hemoglobin to carry oxygen in the blood around the body. So my MCH was 32 PG, and it's supposed to be 36 to 34. So it was perfectly good. So then we have MCH. You'll see a lot of these These are the standard blood tests, and you'll see a lot of them are very similar. But like, well, why do I need that? That's very similar to that, or whatever. But together they tell you the story. So if only one has been elevated, then maybe it's not a serious problem. Maybe it is. But if there's a couple of them, you'd start to wonder. So MCHC, that's mean corpuscle hemoglobin concentration, is a measure of the concentration of hemoglobin in red blood cells. It may indicate an iron deficiency or the opposite. So my MCHC is 33.0 G per DL, that's deciliter, gram per deciliter, and it's supposed to be 31 to 37. So again, bang on in the middle. So this kind of when we see the high one, the MCV, this might say, look, it's just one elevation. It's only very slightly high. And in other labs, they use 80 to 100. So maybe it's not too bad. So the PLT is a platelet count. This is a very important thing. Platelets are what is used if you get a cut to seal up the cut. So your platelet count is important. It's a test that measures the numbers of platelets in your blood. Platelets help for you to have a blood clot. So my PLT is 232, and it's supposed to be between 140 and 440. So it's right kind of in the middle there again. So next we have neutrophils. Now these, all the fills and sites I call them, these will tell you if you've got infections or if you've got something that you should be kind of, autoimmune or that kind of stuff. So, and cancer and all those other things. So the neutrophils help your immune system fight infections and heal injuries. Neutrophils are the most common type of white blood cell in your body. So my neutrophils are 2.86, and they're supposed to be between 1.4 to 6.6. So they're pretty low, which means I had no infection. I was expecting some of these to be elevated after the flu vaccination, but it just showed me how good my actual immune response to the flu vaccination was. So next are the lymphocytes. Lymphocytes are a type of white blood cell. They're a part of your immune system, which helps your body fight disease and infection. So my lymphocytes were 2.28, and they're supposed to be between 0.9 and 3.2. So they were in the middle again. They weren't even on the high side. They were really just in the middle. So perfect. So my monocytes. So monocytes are a type of white blood cells, also known as leukocytes, that reside in your blood and tissue, and is found to destroy germs, viruses, bacteria, fungi, and protozoa, and eliminate infected cells. Monocytes call on other white blood cells to help treat injury and prevent infection. So my monocytes were 0.46, and they're supposed to be between 0.15 and 1.30. So again, they were on the low side. So fantastic. It was really, I was surprised. I was expecting one or two of those to be elevated after the flu vaccination, which I had forgotten. I had booked the blood test months in advance, and I just randomly went and got a flu vaccination without even thinking. So then we have the eosinophils. The different fills and sites are usually indicative of different types of infection. So eosinophils would often be associated with something like hay fever. So they might be elevated, say, in March or something when there's hay fever. So eosinophils become active when you have certain allergic reactions, infections, and other medical conditions. So mine are 0.32, and they're supposed to be between 0.04 and 0.40. So mine were actually on the high side, which isn't that. I often have a kind of a sinus or a nasal infection, and I'm quite, if there's cat or dog around or carpets or whatever, I tend to be slightly overreact up here. So I'm not surprised that eosinophils being slightly high. I do get hay fever. Anything with kind of dust or dander or anything, I tend to react. Even if someone has dog hairs on their pants legs, which I have often, I tend to react really quickly to that kind of stuff. I just think that some people are like that. I've always been like that. So basophils are basophils are white blood cells that the bone marrow makes. They play a role in a healthy immune system. So you see, all of these have got to do with the immune system. Having more or less basophils than usual may be a sign of inflammation, So I expected these to be low because my inflammation should have been low at this time. The only thing is the flu vaccination, so they might have been high. Let's have a look. Hyperthyroidism. That's where you have an overactive thyroid. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute because I had a little bit of a surprise with that too, or another health condition. So my basophils were at 0.09, which is really low, but they're supposed to be at between 0.00, which is nothing, and 0.10. So mine were high. So that is in line with the fact that I had the flu vaccination, but it's still under the range. But having it showed a little bit of inflammation and the hyperthyroidism. I have been taking iodine for my thyroid, and I have gone from being hypothyroid, where I had an underactive thyroid. I have 3 different blood tests that have shown the transition and gotten to very slightly being hyper. No, I'm not on the thing. I'm still within the range, but I have managed to get my thyroid to function perfectly well just by taking an iodine supplement. So next we're going to move on to the very exciting, I love this one, the HbA1c, but a lot of the doctors on keto will tell you don't be led by the nose by this one. The HbA1c is the amount of glucose which has been stuck to your red blood cells for the last kind of 120 days, 80 to 120 days. That's how long your red blood cells last for and then die off, and then the next one. So this is all the new ones and the old ones together, but it tells you in general what your HbA1c was. So the HbA1c testing is a blood test your doctor or diabetes team may use to diagnose or monitor your diabetes. So if you're having a lot of glucose in your blood for the last 80 to 100 days, that's not a good sign that you're either eating too many carbohydrates or you have been eating too many carbohydrates. So it's shown how much glucose has built up in your blood for the last 2 to 3 months. So my HbA1c has gone down when I very first tested it. Now I was already on keto about 6 months. I had never had a blood test before that. Unfortunately, I would have loved to have seen it before that. But mine was 36. My next blood test was 35, which showed that I was getting better. This one was 34. And this is after a month of fasting. But you see, it also included October and September, which would have been 2 kind of dodgy months for my carb intake. So it was 34 millimoles per mole, and it's supposed to be between 20 and 42. So I'm nicely in the middle. And I'm sure if I was very strict on keto, like I tend, within 3 months, I probably would have 2 or 3 weeks at least of heavier carb eating. So I'm happy with that. 34 is pretty good. It's a pretty good response. So the next one is the fasting glucose. So my fasting glucose, so I did fast in my previous test. I forgot that I was supposed to be fasting, but in this one I was fasting. And my fasting glucose was 4.9, which was really brilliant because it had always been 5.6, 5.5. So this one was really good. 4.9. So I have managed, of course I was fasting for November, and this was taken on the 27th of November. But the fasting glucose is a really great indication of you controlling your blood sugar, and that your body with a low blood sugar is really well able to manage and to have enough energy and whatever. So mine was 4.9. It's supposed to be between 3.9 and 6.1. So mine was always in the other blood tests around 5.5, 5.6 in the earlier one. And it had been coming down. This was a great result, 4.9. I was delighted with that. So your fasting glucose is your fasting blood sugar is a simple common blood test to diagnose pre-diabetes. Now pre-diabetes is seen to be around 5.6 and upwards. So I would say that I could have always been surfing along at that because I was a big carb eater, and gestational diabetes. So before the test, you shouldn't have anything to eat or drink except water for 8 to 12 hours, which is exactly what I did. Now I did have coffee. Some people say that coffee can affect that. I didn't mind too. If there's a couple of points up, it doesn't bother me too much. But maybe someday. I'm very bad. I really like the coffee in the morning. So next thing is the sodium. So sodium is actually a very important electrolyte. We fear sodium so much but it's actually a very important. So mine is 1.139 millimoles per liter, and it's supposed to be between 132 and 144. So I'm really, really perfectly angled in the middle of that. And I have upped my sodium a lot since going on the ketogenic diet and realizing, doing a lot of research into it and saying, no, don't fear salt. Sorry. So I have upped my sodium, and this is the result, a really good sodium result. And this is probably my best one. So sodium is a blood test that is a routine test that may be used to check your general health. So it may be used to help and find and monitor conditions that affect the balance of your fluids. Your sodium is very important for your blood, electrolytes and acidity in your body. The test is often done as part of a group of tests called the electrolyte panel. So I have some of that here. Next test I got done was my urea, the blood urea. Nitrogen, or the BUN test it's called, measures the amount of urea nitrogen in your blood. Urea nitrogen is a waste product. It develops when your body breaks down the protein in the foods you eat. So my urea was at 3.8 millimoles per mole, and it's supposed to be between 2.8 and 8.4. So mine was on the low side, which is great, and I would have expected that from being fasting for the whole month. So the next one was the hemolysis index. That should be at 0, which mine was, to say that you are healthy. So mine was at 0. So the hemolysis index is a medical term used to describe destruction of red blood cells. Your body is constantly destroying older damaged red blood cells and replacing them with new ones. A hemolysis index of 0 is normal. So the next one is the GFR estimation. This is how well your kidneys are working. Mine are greater than 90. When I first started, it was greater than 80. Greater than 90 is, I'm almost at 100%. I could be at 100%. I don't even think that they do a greater than anything higher than that. But anyway, your GFR estimation is a glomerular filtration rate, I can't even pronounce that word. GFR test is a blood test that checks how well your kidneys are working. Healthcare providers use estimated glomerular filtration rate, eGFR, to determine if you have kidney disease, or if so, what stage. Now, I also have the blood results of a male here, and that he had over 80. But he's not on as much keto as I am. I'm much stricter. So that means my blood is in great condition, flowing well. Now, maybe not after Christmas, but this was on the 27th of November. So my next one will be the globulin. So globulin is a protein in the blood. This will indicate as well if you have proteins in your blood that are too high, that's usually an indication of something like cancer or something like that. Yeah, you want to be asking questions. But I'll tell you one thing: the doctor will only ever ring you if your cholesterol is too high and offer you statin. Even a good doctor, because they're so entrenched in what is the norm in the medical system, when in actual fact they're looking in the wrong direction. But anyway, we won't say anything about that because I'm not a doctor, and I'll get the shiza kicked out of me. So my globulin was at 21 grams per liter, and the globulin range is 21 to 36. So my globulin was right down at the bottom, which is excellent. I have no dodgy illnesses. So the globulin, healthcare providers use globulin blood tests to measure protein levels in your blood. Your liver makes globulin, a protein. High levels may indicate autoimmune disease, infections, or cancer. A low globulin reading may be a sign of liver or kidney disease. So mine's right at the bottom. Should I be getting worried? But no, everything else. Then you start looking, you see the globulin result. And sorry, I did my makeup really badly this morning. But you see the globulin result, and then you look at other signs. So you don't just look at things in isolation. I could say to myself, right, I'm looking at my globulin, but let's look at the liver and kidney function test also. So now I know that, okay, my globulin's right at the bottom, which is 21, and the range is 21 to 36. But my other indicators say that it's because I'm healthy. So you got to start using, but I guarantee you my doctor didn't even look at that. They didn't. It's not that she doesn't care. She's busy. They all they do is they go straight to the cholesterol page. I had to ask for these tests to be done, and even when I asked, I was questioned as if I was going to be like taken in by the guards or something. It was like, why do you want those tests? And I said, I want to see how healthy I am. No, I want to control my own health. How dare you? We will tell you if you're healthy or not. So, sorry about that. Next one is the AST. This is the liver function test. AST, ALT, and total protein. These are really important tests. They will tell you your liver is the cleaner. Your liver is your cleaning system. You must look after your liver. It's the largest organ in your body for a reason. Every drop of blood in your body goes through the liver to make sure that it's clean and everything is really functioning well. And your liver is very important to mind your liver. Now, I do drink alcohol, and at the moment, it is very likely after 2 weeks of carb abuse and alcohol, I probably have a bit of a fatty liver. And you could say it's partially non-alcoholic fatty liver. Non-alcoholic fatty liver is the greatest threat to modern Western society. And fatty liver used to be known as the disease of alcoholics, because up until the mid-90s, it was only ever really seen in alcoholics that people had a fatty liver. But then they invented the term non-alcoholic fatty liver, which has by far overtaken alcoholic fatty liver, because now people have fatty liver from all the carbohydrates, fructose. It's not just from alcohol. So if at the moment I would expect that I have some degree of fatty liver, I'll take the hit, but I don't want to have it on an ongoing basis. So what I'm going to do now is go into kind of keto and fasting and get rid of the fat in my liver, because the very first place your body, which is why it's very frustrating for weight loss, your body will take the fat out of is your liver. That's how important it is. So my AST is 26U per L, and it should be between 6 and 42. So I'm bang on in the middle. And your AST is a blood test that measures the amount of aspartate transferase in your blood. In most cases, your healthcare provider uses an AST blood test to help assess the health of your liver, but it can provide insight into other health conditions as well. So I would not just look at the AST on its own, although it's a very good indicator, but we'll look at the ALT now as well, and the total protein. So total protein is next. My total protein is 68 grams per liter, G per L, and it's supposed to be between 62 and 82. Mine's on the low side, which is excellent. I'm delighted with that. A total protein test measures the amount of protein in your blood. Proteins are important for health and growth of the body cells and tissues. The test can help diagnose a number of health conditions, including kidney disease. So mine is in the good range there. ALT, which is alanine transaminase. ALT, it's an enzyme, which is also a protein that speeds up certain chemical reactions in your body. It is found mainly in your liver. Usually you will have low levels of ALT in your blood, but when liver cells are damaged, they release ALT into the bloodstream. So this should be low. My ALT is 20 U per L, and it's supposed to be between 0 and 34. So mine is perfect. And then we have bilirubin. So if your ALT is high, you could have gallstones, you could have, usually it would be some kind of dysfunction, of the liver. So if your ALT is high, there's something up somewhere. So anyway, total bilirubin. So the bilirubin blood test measures the level of bilirubin in your blood. Bilirubin is a yellowish substance made during your body's normal process of breaking down old red blood cells. Bilirubin is found in bile. So your bile is made by the liver and stored in the gallbladder. It's a very important substance and helps you break down fats. So bile needs to be fluid. Your gallbladder is the holding sac, and it squirts out bile when you eat fats, good fats. And I would say that that should be flowing nicely. But when we were all carb eaters, including myself, that bile is sludgy and shitty and rubbishy and often can form crystals, which then form stones, which take 10 to 20 years to form. And those stones can then cause problems later on. Gallbladder removal is the biggest operation done in the Western world, which is an easy fix for the doctors to whip out your gallbladder. But actually, your gallbladder is pretty important. So what I would do, and what I'm doing now, is I take, because I used to have a terrible diet, I take Stonebreaker, and I actually do think it's working. I'm going to get another CT scan down the line to break up if there are any crystals formed from a previous time of hedonistic white carb. I call them white carbs, or any kind of carb eating. That is going to have cleared out my bile to make it squirt beautifully. And I have increased my consumption of good fats, extra virgin olive oil, cod liver oil, butter, and I don't use vegetable oils at all, zero. The only time I eat vegetable oils is if I happen to go to a diner or a fast food restaurant. I don't worry about it then because it's only occasional. So bilirubin is found in bile, a fluid your liver makes to help digest food, mainly fats. Higher levels of direct bilirubin in your blood may mean your liver isn't clearing bilirubin properly. You'll know if you'll have something like jaundice if your bilirubin isn't clearing, and that you might have a gallstone blocking one of your biliary ducts, and you need to take action. Obviously, if you have very big stones, I would get a scan, but I would start taking Stonebreaker. You can get it on iHerb all across the globe, and do it as a prevention, but also clean out your diet, get rid of the refined carbs, and stop eating all that sugary shit. Okay, so it may mean that you're not clearing bilirubin properly. This may mean that there's liver damage or disease. Higher levels of indirect bilirubin may be a sign of other problems. One common cause of elevated bilirubin is Gilbert syndrome. So my bilirubin is 8 UMOL, which is universal moles per liter, and it's supposed to be between 2 and 20. So mine is on the lower side. Absolutely excellent result. Happy with that. So your GGT, that's a gamma glutamyl transferase. GGT test is a blood test that a healthcare provider orders to check for liver damage or a bile duct blockage. It means the amount of GGT in a liver enzyme in your blood. High levels of GGT can indicate a number of health conditions that affect your liver, your heart. You can see how many tests there are about the liver. Really, really important organ. Your heart or other organs higher than normal. Test results could be a sign of liver damage from diseases such as hepatitis, cirrhosis, tumors, or pancreatic cancer. So my GGT, it's on the next page. My GGT is 25 U per L. It's supposed to be between 0 and 38. So that seems okay to me. I'm not sure if it should be much further down. Yeah, looks okay. Maybe it's a little high. Ooh. So anyway, so that's the GGT. So the next one is albumin. An albumin blood test indicates the amount of albumin in your blood. Low albumin levels can be a sign of liver or kidney disease or another medical condition. High levels may be a sign of dehydration. Albumin is a protein made by your liver. So this is like albumin and globulin was the other one. My albumin was 47 G per L, and it's supposed to be between 35 and 52. Now you could say that's a little high. I would say I might have been a tiny bit dehydrated. I'd had the flu vaccination and I had not really drank much that morning. So it could have been. The fact that it's a little bit higher than lower is fine for me. So alkaline phosphatase and alkaline phosphatase ALP. So mine was 64 U per L. It's supposed to be between 30 and 120. So mine is really good on the lower range, and that is the amount of ALP in your blood, alkaline phosphatase. Although ALP exists throughout your body, there are two main sources of ALP in your blood. That's your liver and your bones. High levels of ALP may indicate liver disease or certain bone disorders, but an ALP test alone cannot diagnose. So you'll see here now that there are lots of tests about similar things, and we are now building up a story. What's the story of Catherine's blood. What's the story of her, what's happening inside Catherine's body at this given moment? And we can see a little bit, we can see some kind of historical stuff through the HbA1c. So calcium is next. This is how important calcium is in your blood. I do not take a calcium supplement because I fear too much calcium, but I do take a vitamin D, and you have to be careful that you are managing your calcium well. Your calcium should be at a good number. My calcium is at 2.43 millimoles per liter, and it's supposed to be between 2.2 and 2.6, so mine is exactly right. So do not take a calcium supplement. I think, and I take a lot of supplements, but I am careful about the calcium because you don't want to have too much calcium in your blood, which could then build up in your arteries and veins. So my calcium is perfect. A calcium blood test is the amount of calcium in your blood, which you do need calcium. Too much or too little calcium in your blood may be a sign of a wide range of medical conditions such as bone disease, thyroid disease, parathyroid disorders, kidney disease, and other conditions. My calcium is bang on in the middle, and it's perfect. So that I'm very happy that I am doing my absolute best to keep my body in peak condition. So the adjusted calcium then is, they take out the proteins, and mine is 2.36 millimoles per liter, and it's supposed to be again between 2.2 and 2.6. So it's on the lower side, which is fine. It's still kind of bang on in the middle. So that's great. So the adjusted calcium is the approximation of the metabolically active calcium, which errors greatest of extremes of albumin concentration. So it takes out the albumin, and when there is a suspicion of evidence of acidosis or alkalosis. So if your blood is too acid or too alkaline, mine is obviously slightly on the alkaline side, which is why I take apple cider vinegar to make sure that I stay somewhere in the middle. Now, the next one is cholesterol. Now, this one is very interesting because my cholesterol is 8.6 millimoles per liter, and high, it's supposed to be between 3.5 and 5. Now, this is the one where I completely disagree with the standard rate. If you're on the ketogenic diet and you're on the strict ketogenic diet, you will have high cholesterol. But the cholesterol that I have is good cholesterol. I have good LDL. There is two types of LDL, but of course, we only know these in the last few years. You can go and get a test for your LDL now to divide whether it's large, buoyant, or low dense. Low dense is bad, but you only have a lot of low dense cholesterol if you have a high carb diet. So because I don't have a high carb diet, my cholesterol, I don't worry about that number at all. The very important number is triglyceride to HDL ratio. Triglyceride to HDL ratio. This is the one that will tell you, it's a better indicator of your cardiovascular risk. I don't even look at cholesterol. So my triglyceride was high because, why was it? Oh yes, if you have a very high fat diet for a while, you can actually elevate your triglycerides. And over the month of November, I did eat a lot of fat, and my triglyceride to HDL ratio was good. It was under, it was 0.8. But my previous triglycerides, sometimes they say if you're fasting, your triglycerides can go up a little bit. But my HDL was high, 2.25, and my calculated LDL was 5.5, which is actually okay. But the LDL that I have is large, buoyant, more than small dense. So the small dense is the dangerous one, and that's really only if you have a lot of refined carbs. So just let me get rid of that. My triglyceride to HDL ratio on this, so I have 1.81 millimoles per liter, which is my triglycerides, and it's supposed to be between 0.3 and 1.7, so it was slightly elevated, and there was a reason for that because of the heavy amount of fasting I was doing and the consumption of fat. So I'm dividing 181 by 2.25, which is my HDL, so I'm doing triglyceride to HDL ratio equals 0.80444. But in previous times, my HDL, my triglyceride to HDL ratio has been 0.34, which is astoundingly good. But 0.8, it's supposed to be under 1.5. 0.8 is even very good. So I had no worries about that. And I'm just going to say to you, cholesterol is made up of HDL, high density lipoproteins. Lipoproteins are fats in the blood that are carried by the proteins, and LDL, low density lipoproteins. Now, LDL is seen as the bad cholesterol, HDL is seen as the good cholesterol, but that's not quite accurate. LDL is made up of large buoyant or small dense. Small dense is dangerous and bad. People who eat high carbohydrate diet, high refined diet, high seed oil diets have high, low density lipoproteins that are made up of small dense. But my one is large buoyant. So it's, even though it's coming up here as being, oh, bad protein, bad LDL, bad cholesterol, it really is a good cholesterol. So large buoyant is good. We need cholesterol in every cell in our body. And I am very happy to have high cholesterol because it's all good cholesterol. It's just that the science has not caught up with the actual reality of these things, and the governments are still churning out this cholesterol kind of stuff. So anyway, my HDL is considered to be the good cholesterol, whereas LDL has typically been described as the bad cholesterol. In the traditional medical fields, it's still considered to be correct. However, increasingly, and you can actually get this done even in Ireland, you can get a test to split your LDL into large buoyant or small dense, and that will tell you if it's mainly small dense, you have a problem. You've got to change your diet. If it's large buoyant, you've got no problem, and that's LDL. However, increasingly people are getting their LDL tested, and this can be large buoyant, which is good LDL, or small dense, which is actually the bad LDL. But you can already tell if you're eating a high carb diet, high refined carb diet, you've got bad LDL, or if you're eating too much fruit, too much porridge, all that kind of rubbish. And it's mainly caused by refined carbs. So that's that part. So, oh, sorry, I should have gone through triglycerides. Triglycerides test is a blood test that measures the amount of fat in your blood called triglycerides. High blood triglyceride levels may increase your risk for heart disease and stroke. A triglyceride test can help you decide if you need to take action to lower your risk. HDL, and like I said, my triglycerides were higher because I was fasting. That fasting over a long, which is why I decided to kind of finish earlier in December than I had planned, because it's also important not to put your body through too much stress. HDL, high density lipoprotein HDL, cholesterol is known as good cholesterol because it helps remove other forms of cholesterol from the bloodstream. A higher level of HDL cholesterol is linked to a lower risk of heart disease. Cholesterol is a waxy substance that is in every cell of the body. I'm just going to put on my heater there because it's starting to get a little chilly here in the porch. Now, so we have C-reactive protein. This is a brilliant test. Everybody should get this test, and you kind of have to ask for it. Like, oh, anyway, we won't get started. So the C-reactive protein, mine was 2.4 mg per L, and it should be between 0 and 5. I swear, I'm so happy with myself. I'm bang on in the middle. I've never been so happy to be average in my whole life. So C-reactive protein, otherwise known as CRP, the C-reactive protein test is a blood test that checks for inflammation in your body. So important. This test alone will tell you a multitude. Is my body inflamed? I guarantee you if I got that test today, it would come up with a different number. I would probably be closer to 5 or maybe above it. My C-reactive protein has been higher than that in my other blood tests, which I should really go through. But anyway, I won't be able to find them today, and I could bore you by waiting. CRP is a protein that's made in your liver and released into your bloodstream. Levels of CRP start to increase very soon after any inflammation or infection affects your body. So this was after getting the flu vaccination, and I'm at 2.4 mg per L. I'm on C-reactive protein, and it's supposed to be between 0 and 5, which also indicates to me that my body was really good at this stage, which it should have been, at responding to the flu vaccination. So vitamin B12, this is a very important test. They don't even share these. Your vitamin B12 is so important. I do take a vitamin B supplement. At the very beginning, I didn't. And I think for women, particularly vitamin B12 and the B complex vitamins are very important. But I did make a mistake this past couple of months. I introduced folic acid as well. The vitamin B complex tablet already has folic acid in it, but didn't I decide to get a folic acid test separate or tablet separately, which was a mistake because my serum folate was too high. Now that's okay in the short term, but I've dropped that folic acid because I am taking the vitamin B complex. So this is where you can take too many supplements. I got a bit overexcited. I mean, I knew myself that the folic acid was already in the B complex. I don't know why I decided to buy. I think I got carried away. I saw the little container. It looked so cute, and the tablet was so tiny. But you can overtake. So I'm careful with some. That particular tablet, it doesn't matter too much that I took too many. But say with something like vitamin D, you have to be careful that you're not taking too much. So the vitamin B12. So my vitamin B12 was 544 mg per L, and it's supposed to be between 140 and 844. So mine's perfect, absolutely perfect. So this is where, so I'm just going to read out the vitamin B12 level in the blood test that measures how much vitamin B12 is in your blood. This test is often done when other blood tests suggest a condition called megaloblastic anemia. Pernicious anemia causes a form of megaloblastic anemia caused by vitamin B12 deficiency due to poor vitamin B12 absorption. This can occur when the stomach makes less of a substance called intrinsic factor the body needs to efficiently absorb vitamin B12. So my vitamin B12 is fine. Now this is the next one is where I made the mistake with the folic acid and the B complex vitamin. I only need one, which is the B complex one, and I've cut out the folic acid one. So my serum folate is an important nutrient for growth, development, and the correct function of your red blood cell and nerve tissues. The folate blood test checks for levels of folate in your blood and red blood cells. Low folate can prevent your red blood cells from developing normally and can cause nerve damage. Now, this may be why my earlier test of MCV, which was slightly bigger than normal red blood corpuscles, happened because my serum folate was a little bit too high because I was doubling up on the tablets. So my serum folate was greater than 24 ng per ml, and it's supposed to be between 3.1 and 19.9. So it says above upper panic limits. So immediately I double checked and I realized that I had actually suspected that I should not have been taking that folic acid tablet before that, but this was proof. So it's very interesting. My serum ferritin, so all the other tests around this were fine, so I wasn't really worried. And also it was something that will rectify itself very, very quickly. So the minute I stopped taking the folic acid, then within a week or two, I was fine again. But I will be taking another blood test in the new year. So serum ferritin, mine was at 136 ng per ml, and that's supposed to be between 11 and 307. So there you are again. I am kind of bang on in the middle. So your serum ferritin, a ferritin test is a blood test that measures the level of ferritin, a protein that stores iron inside your cells. Your body needs iron to make healthy red blood cells. Red blood cells carry oxygen from your lungs to the rest of your body. Iron is also important for healthy muscles, bone marrow, and organ function. Now, I do take an iron tablet or a tablet that contains iron because I tend to suffer from low iron. But if that's really a decision for yourself, you kind of know that yourself. Some people have high levels of iron, and hemochromatosis is known as the disease of the Irish, which I definitely don't have. But some people have that. It also depends on your level of exercise, the type of foods you're eating, and all the rest. I don't eat enough foods that contain ferritin, so I supplement. Whether that's laziness or what. I should be eating more red meat, really, but I find I just don't. So so it suits me very well. So the next thing is the free T4, and the free T4 test is to do with your thyroid function. So very important test again. These are the ones I was missing when I last did this blood results, oh, there's a massive walk going on there, people passing everywhere. So the free T4 mine is 11.7. Now this is very interesting because my free T4 is the active form. Now we really should be taking the T3 test, but would have to pay a lot of money for that. So I get the standard test that I can get for, it's now gone up to 50 euros. It was 30. But anyway, so mine's 11.7 pmol per liter, and it's supposed to be between 8 and 16. So mine's perfect. Now that is changed from my very early tests. There's another test called TSH. Now, TSH, if elevated, means that your thyroid is under functioning, which mine used to be. So I was slightly hypothyroid. Now my thyroid is functioning perfectly. But if my free T4 was high, then I would be hyperthyroid. And the change has come between my very first blood test, which was over a year ago, and this blood test. The change is that I started taking an iodine supplement, which has transformed my ability I was always a person to feel cold. Now I don't feel the cold, and that's an indication of hypothyroidism. If your feet are constantly cold, if you're constantly feeling the cold, I was always that person. Now I don't ever feel the cold. So my thyroid function has improved since I started taking an iodine supplement, which I buy in the health food store. And recently I bought a new iodine supplement from, sorry, I'm watching the people on the road, from iHerb. So just to experiment with different ones. So my free T4 is used to find out how well your thyroid gland is working. And T4 is one of two hormones produced by the thyroid, a butterfly-shaped gland in your neck. It's big. They used to be taking them out, but now they don't. They are two forms of T4. Some T4 in your blood is bound to proteins, and some T4 circulates freely or unbound. And it shows you how it's the active form of your thyroid function. The other one is TSH. TSH stands for thyroid stimulating hormone, another name for the thyrotropin. TSH test is a blood test that measures this hormone. A TSH level that is too high or too low may be a sign of a thyroid problem. So mine is at 0.95 MIU per L, and it's supposed to be 0.38 to 5.33. So mine is on the low side, which means that my active thyroid function is excellent. So if that was high, then my thyroid, I might be hypothyroid. But because it's low, my thyroid function is perfect. You take those two tests together to read them. But the best test would be the T3 test, but it's not a standard test over here, and they'd have to get it specially done, so I haven't gotten on to that. So my next one is the LH. This is a test measuring the level of luteinizing hormone. This LH is in your blood. LH is made by your pituitary gland. In women, the pituitary sends out LH during the ovulation part of the menstrual cycle. This tells the ovaries to release the mature egg. So my LH is 5.2 IU per L, and that's a perfectly normal range. It actually tells you, please note the new method of the 15th to the 1st, 2024. So they obviously brought in a new method for testing LH, and then they have mid-follicular 2.1 to 10.9, mid-cycle peak is 19.2 to 103.0. So I wasn't in that stage. This is the one I was at, mid-luteal, 1.2 to 12.9. So that's when you're having it. And then the postmenopausal is 10.8 to 58.6. So I'm not at that point because that hasn't happened yet. So anyway, FSH is this test measures the level of follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, in a sample of your blood. A hormone is a chemical messenger in your bloodstream that controls the actions of certain cells or organs. FSH plays an important role in the sexual development of children and fertility in adults. So my FSH was at 9.6, which was perfectly, and I was at mid-luteal. Wait, now, where was I? Oh yeah, I think I was at mid-cycle or mid-follicular. So anyway, it gives you the range. Mid follicular is 3.9 to 8.8. Mid cycle peak is 4.5 to 22.5, and mid luteal is 1.8 to 5.1. I think I was mid cycle, and the postmenopausal is 16.7 to 114. So these are just the kind of indications they give for where you are in your cycle at that time. So I was at the mid part of the cycle. So anyway, it's important to know that when you're getting those tested, it just gives you an indication about how healthy you are and whether you are where you should be and what it's telling you about your female. I'm going to get onto the male. I'm going to cover the male hormone one as well, which is PSA. That's to do with the prostate, which is important. Every man should be getting the PSA test as standard. And you can ask for these tests, but you have to ask for them, unfortunately. I mean, I had to ask for the vitamin D test, which I'm going to do next. And I was told by the doctor that they've been told that they are not supposed to get the 25-OH vitamin D test now because everybody is low on vitamin D, everybody in Ireland. And they have been told not to do it because it's a little bit expensive. So I asked for it, and then it wasn't done, but I kind of demanded it. And it was done then, and I do want to see. Now, my vitamin D, when I first started on keto and had my first blood test, was at the very minimum. So it's 50 is the minimum. Mine was at 52. Now my vitamin D is at 88. The ideal optimal amount is 75 to 125. So I have raised my vitamin D to an absolutely perfect level. And I'm absolutely thrilled about that. So that is by my own actions, not because you think that when my vitamin D test the first time came out at 52 and it's 50 is the absolute baseline. And I've seen people with 15 and even less. You think that they rang me, the doctor. No, they rang me about my cholesterol. They didn't ring me and say, oh, your vitamin D is a bit low. Take a supplement or something. So for that kind of period of time, I started trying to get more sunshine and whatever, and I didn't actually introduce vitamin D until after the second blood test. And then I introduced vitamin D. I take vitamin D and turmeric. It's a Tesco tablet, it's very cheap. And that I have upped my last blood test was 75 and this one's 88. So I am winning on the vitamin D. And I have noticed I don't get any infections. I am much better able to combat things. Recently, I was in the presence of people who had chest infections, and I could feel myself that the infection had come upon me, but I fought it off very comfortably. Obviously, it's inconvenient to have any kind of start to something, but I find that I am better able to fight off these kind of infections. I'm not saying I'm anything perfect, but anyway, vitamin D, OH, mine is at 88 and it's supposed to be between, this is what it says here, the reference. Less than 25 is deficient. 25 to 50 is insufficient. 50 to 75 is adequate. 75 plus is optimal. Over 125 is too much. So I am very careful about my vitamin D tablet. It's the one tablet I do not take in excess, and if I miss a day, I don't worry about it. But I do take it fairly regularly, but I will not overtake it. And even when I was starting on that kind of chest infection, but managed to fight it off, I did not take extra tablets. Vitamin D is one of the few tablets where you can take too many. So you got to be careful with that one, but I am pretty regular on it. So we would say 25 OH vitamin D, 25 hydroxy vitamin D2, ergo calciferol is the vitamin D that you have absorbed from foods fortified with plant vitamin D or from ergo calciferol supplement. The two hormones, ergo and calciferol, work similarly in the body. The important value of 25 hydroxy vitamin D level in your blood. So it is an important one. Now, the only one I'm going to include extra in this, which I didn't have myself, but which a male had, was the PSA. And the PSA is mainly for prostate cancer. It should be good. And if you do a ketogenic diet, you will have an excellent PSA. Men who are over 25, you need to watch your PSA. You need a good clean diet to make sure that there is no reason for a man to have an enlarged prostate as an older person. But we expect these things because we're eating shitty, crappy food. We're eating shitty, crappy food on an ongoing basis. I just want to see where this PSA. Yes. So this person that I'm dealing with, after a good while on keto, but not as strict as me, 0.34 UG per L, and it's supposed to be between 0 and 4. So that's almost at 0. That's brilliant. That's really brilliant. So that person is at a very low risk of any kind of prostate problems. Why do we expect these problems? You need to get smart about your own health. I am in charge of my own health. I'm not perfect by any means. You should have seen me the last 2 days. In fact, my video from yesterday is probably a bit embarrassing because I was drinking wine 10 o'clock in the morning. But there will be no wine now for the next couple of months. But it's important to enjoy yourself as well and have a bit of fun, you know. And I'm fully in for that too, because I'm great crack. Anyway, have a lovely day. I'll talk to you soon, and I hope you enjoyed the blood results. And I think get your bloods done in 2025 and start investigating your own life. Bye.